If you're looking for some inspiration for upcycle project ideas for the upcoming holidays, I have a few projects for you today, so let's get started. And project number one, we have a scrapwood project, which are probably some of my favorite to create. And I know that I still owe you guys another scrapwood video before the snow starts flying. I applied 1 coat of the Folk Art multi-purpose paint after I sanded the piece using 220 fine grit sandpaper. After that dried, I got out my typesetting stamps from IOD, and I'm spelling out the word Noel because I need to get some holiday items into the Etsy store. I decided to make a little wreath for the O instead of stamping it. I have pitberry garland that has jingle bells in it, so I thought that might be perfect. I cut this piece off, and now what I'm doing is untangling it so that it'll be a little bit thinner. Now that I have my piece, I'm going to twist it tight so that way it will stay together and have a better finished look. And now I'm just twisting all the ends around each other and sizing it. I did decide that was a little too big, so I do make it a touch smaller before I use that wreath. Now I'm just lining it all up. I added a new set of fall printable tags for you guys over on my blog. I added it to the same post that the other fall printables are in. You just have to scroll down all the way to the bottom of the page. I purchased this little wooden crate at a yard sale probably about a year ago, and I wish I had the original before picture. This was after I sanded it. I don't know if you guys can see the round ornaments that were painted on the side were still showing even after sanding them, and I started to spray paint it and kind of got frustrated, so I had to put it away. So does it ever happen to you sometimes where you just have to put a project away because you just don't want to deal with it at that point? I think a lot of my issue was the old sander that I was using just wasn't cutting it last year. I pulled out my new sander and got rid of most of the bumps. But the ornaments, the way that they were showing through, I really liked the way that it looked. So I decided to keep it rustic the way that it is and not paint over it. I was going to stamp the word snow on the side, but decided to use the word peace. And there's my A. It never sticks. If anybody has any suggestions, let me know. So I'm just running with it, leaving it there. We're going to stamp over it. Project number 3, my friend gave me this old metal tray because she thought I would be able to upcycle it. And I have had it for a year waiting for a project. And I thought making it into like a vintage style Christmas tray might work. I cleaned the entire tray using a magic eraser, and I like how it has that aged look. I could not fit all of the uppercase letters here for Christmas, so I decided to stamp how I actually have written Christmas since I was a kid, with capital letters for Christ and then a lowercase for the MAS. The tray did have a dent where the I was, so I just went back over and pushed my thumb down so that way that spot would get the ink. Then up at the top, I used the large pinecone stamp from IOD. I did make a mistake the first time and had to wipe it off. And you can do that with the IOD ink. As long as you wipe it off right away, then you're good to go and restamp. Decided to use the lowercase letters to spell out Mary. And I am loving the black wooden handles on this tray. You have to let me know what you think and which project was your favorite. I know this one has a little bit of a rustic kind of vintage look to it. I would like to try the same stamps on a painted tray in an upcoming video. Project number 4 is one of my favorite kind of projects because it's easy peasy. I don't have a before picture, but this was a really cool cutting board that I think I purchased for 50 cents at a yard sale. It did have a lot of deep knife marks in it. So I started off with 80 grit sandpaper, moved to 120, and then finished with 220. So the surface is smooth, but there are still some cut marks in it. It's going to give this little riser some character. I love these wooden feet. I've purchased them from Amazon and use them on several projects, and they are linked below for you in the description. I applied E6000 and a little bit of wood glue. I did let it sit for 24 hours. I need to apply a sealer to it. Let me know what type of sealer would you use, or if you would paint it or add any type of antiquing wax or white wax. This next little piece we purchased at a yard sale for 50 cents. My daughter got the tiny one, and then I got the larger size one. But I feel bad. I chipped it right up at the top, but it is a smooth chip. So I thought we would turn it into a little holiday picture and maybe put it up on the windowsill in the kitchen just so nobody touches it. With a sponge brush, I'm applying mineral color paint from Waverly. I did 2 coats of that. These little ink stamps are, I believe, from Michael's a few years ago. I'm lightly brushing on some green acrylic paint from Apple Barrel, and now I'm dabbing on some white acrylic paint in hopes that it will look like snow. And it didn't come out too bad. There were some areas that I wanted to fix, so I went over them with the paintbrush. And then my daughter recommended using her dotting tool to add some little red Christmas balls, and I think that that was a perfect choice. I wanted to do something to get rid of the smooth look and bring some texture on, so I'm applying with a sponge some of the dark wax from DIY Paint Company. Now normally you would always want to put clear wax on, but I am out of clear wax, I'm out of white wax, and it is not in the budget this month. So it was either do this or nothing, and I think that it came out really good. I think it helped bring out the texture and give the piece a little character. And next, for project number 6, we're going to make those little ornaments. For 50 cents, I purchased a little Ziploc bag of this little wooden blocks that spelled out welcome. I applied 2 coats of the mineral paint from Waverly. The IOD stamps that I'm using are from that pine cone set. I'm applying acrylic paint with a paintbrush and stamping right onto the wood. I decided to tone the colors down a little bit, so I'm using some of the truffle brown paint, getting a dry paintbrush, and going over the red just to tone it down a little bit. After I stamped those on, I did take the dotting tool and filled in the spots in the middle a little bit, and then applied white acrylic paint to the dotting tool to add some highlights. And then I'm applying the brown to 2 of the pine cone stamps. But I do make a mistake on my first try. I didn't add enough paint, and you'll see that it came out really, really bad. I like how I tried the second one up there. Like, even if that one came out perfect, I would have wiped it off. But I just applied water to it and wiped it off, and we're good to try again. This time, I added more paint to the pine cone. I did notice that a little bit was pooling in the center when I did the small one, and I took a piece of paper towel and just blotted that on there, and it came out a little bit better. Then taking the paintbrush, I added some highlights using some light brown paint and some white paint. Then using the sponge with the dark wax from DIY Paint Company, I went along the edges to bring out some of the detail. Then realized that it needed a little bit more of an antiquing look. I went over the fronts of both of them. And again, if you do have clear wax, I definitely recommend applying that first. because it makes the dark wax so much more manageable to be able to use. I took a single strand of the white pit berries, took the wire, put it through the top, made a loop, and went back out through. And then I twist the piece that I sent through, and then twisted that around the metal loop that was already there, and then kept winding the pit berry wire around, positioned it the way that I wanted, and twisted it into place. And I think when I get some thin red ribbon, I'd like to make a little bow and hot glue it up at the top. So last Wednesday, I did post a bonus video. So in case you missed it and would like to check it out, you're going to want to click on the video on the left. Or if you'd like to check out the other wooden riser that I made out of a scrap piece of wood and some other projects, you're going to want to click on the one on the right. Thank you to everyone that has joined me over on Facebook. We have over 100 subscribers. This week, I'm challenging each of you to please go on and post a project that you're working on, one that you need inspiration for, or one of your thrifted finds. Friends, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you know what a blessing you are to me. Have a super blessed week, and I'll see you Sunday.